Wakey. Hello, good morning, and many thanks indeed for joining us here on Morning Prime. It is the 9th of July 8th of July 2024. I'm glad that you're joining us this morning from wherever you're waking up to. It's a beautiful day, a Monday, that of course everyone will see what will be happening this week as far as the political tone and tenor is concerned with the reforms that has been announced by the president. We shall be slicing and dicing that as well. Also, that contentious tax, the task force that was actually put up by the president on Friday. We shall be looking at that with our panelists this morning. Will be joining us momentarily. But for now, let's see how the weather will be today. All right, this is what you're waking up to on the front page of the Standard today. To fire or keep, Ruto's cabinet dilemma. That is what is on the front page of today's publication of the Standard today. Fresh headache. President William Ruto faces probably the biggest test of his presidency on who to fire from cabinet. In a government where loyalty precedes any other qualification, Ruto faces a Herculean task of letting go of his friends. And we have also Munene Masharia's comment here saying the president is facing an internal crisis on how to balance national and personal interest as far as the reconstituting of his cabinet is concerned. And this story continues on page 4 of the publication today. In honor of fallen Gen Z protesters, thousands gather at Nairobi's Uhuru Park for the Saba Saba Memorial concert yesterday in honor of youths who were killed during protest against the Finance Bill 2024. And the story continued on page 6 of the Standard today. 41 lives were lost during the protest that spread across the country for 2 weeks. On the sidebar, doctors to down tools over interns, medical cover as well. Today, doctors backed by the Gen Z protesters intend to storm Afya House to push the Ministry of Health to post intern doctors and provide comprehensive medical cover to civil servants. They're using the hashtag Occupy Afya House. That story continues on page 2 of the publication today. Push to have Kiswahili National Council formed. In spite of a cabinet authorizing the formation of a council, no much movement has been done. And this story continues on page 3 of the publication today. Let's look at the teaser on top. Exams quandary as NEC budget is slashed to zero. Exams quandary as NEC budget is slashed to zero. This is on page 9. And French vote in final round of elections. You have a story on page 22, the world page. And Biden warns on corruption in Kenya. This is on page 20 of the publication today. And a day of trumpets and battle cries. This is on page 11 of the Standard today. Daily Nation, inside MPs plot to grab state tenders. And it's all about the conflict of interest bill. Anti-corruption agency has criticized move to water down conflict of interest bill. Some of the closest contentious one that have been, of course, deleted by the Senate. The Senate has given public officers, MPs, governors, CSS, PSAs, and parastatal chiefs a free pass to openly back government contracts. That is, after dismantling a proposed law to curb conflict of interest. All hope now lies in the National Assembly to overturn the changes. This story continues on page 4 and 5 of the publication today. Saba concert, and they came out in large numbers. As you can see it here, young Kenyans during the Shuja's Memorial Concert held yesterday at Uhuru Park in Nairobi. Peace prevailed as thousands of Kenyans across the country turned up to celebrate protesters who lost their lives during the recent revolt against the controversial finance bill. This is on page 2 and 3 of the publication today. And job reprieve for junior school teachers and intern doctors. The government has moved to safeguard the absorption of junior secondary school, that is JSS, teachers and medical interns on permanent and pensionable terms, despite their hiring having faced uncertainty following the collapse of Finance Bill 2024. The hiring will be financed through budget cuts from other government agencies. Vote heads in supplementary budget for the current financial year 2024. You have a story on page 6 of the publication today. Let's see what we have on the sidebar. US elections. Is Kamala Harris the one to beat Donald Trump in November? That is a question. She worries Republican donors has name recognition, and Democratic Party heavyweights are beginning to line up behind her. That story is on page 20 of the publication today. Kenya on high alert as Mpox virus detected in Congo. That is a story that you want to follow on page 8 of the publication this morning. And also how debt and salaries have impeded growth in development units. Only Narok spent over 50% of its development budget. And you have a story on page 16 of the publication today. Record smasher Faith Kipyegon shatters her on 1,500 meters world record in Paris outing. And you have a story on page 34 of the Daily Nation. Revealed financial mess at Hustler Fund, audit unearthed major irregularities in President Ruto's key flagship projects. And you have a story on page 4 and 5, that is flagship project, I should say, not project, on page 4 and 5 of the publication today. And Gen Z remember comrades killed in protests. As the picture are telling here, the pictures, we have heroes, youth gathered in Uhuru Park for Suja Memorial Concert to honor protesters killed during the anti-tax hike demonstrations across the country. They lit candles and carried crosses bearing the names of those killed. And you have a story inside the publication this morning. Audit, we have 14 billion shillings unexplained expenditure rocking universities, and also on vaccine, alarm after poliovirus found in city sewage. Health officials have found traces of poliovirus in a sewage sample collected in Nairobi, raising alarm on the risk to city residents. The sample was collected on May the 15th. It tested positive for the circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus type 2, that is CVDB, that is VDPV2 at the Kenya Medical Research Institute laboratories. And you have a story on page 24 of the Star today. How MPs diluted Kenya anti-graft law to protect state officers. That is a story that we can follow also on page 6 of the legislation today, or the publication, I should say. That legislation will be also a topic of a discussion with our panelists. 30,000 to exit public service. This is all about austerity. Staff who have attained 60 years to hang their boots after directive by President Ruto in response to demands by Gen Z. You have a story on page 4 of the People Daily today. Aluta continua. Brave youth celebrates fallen comrades. That is a story that you can follow also inside the publication today. Raila takes AU job battle to East Africa. Please also help I'm losing my husband to my father-in-law. That is on page 20 of the People Daily today. All right, Taifa Leo, Ruto bado hapumui, that is a splash. Gen Z watangaza kurejea barabarani Alhamisi kwa maandamano ya kuzidisha pressure kwa serikali ya Ruto. Watoa shutuma kali dhidi ya utawala wa Kenya. Kwanza katika maadhimisho ya Sabasaba, Kalonzo naye apuuza mabadiliko yaliyotangazwa na Rais Ruto. You can follow the story on page 2 of the Taifa Leo today. Serikali ya Rai EAC uinge Raila AUC. Gachagua alia mbunge amhujumu, and you can follow that on page 2 of the publication today. Rai serikali itenge siku ya Kiswahili. That is a story that you want to follow on page 11 of Taifa Leo. As we buckle down to Business Daily, or business, this is what you're waking up to on the front page of the Business Daily. IMF may delay approval of fresh funding to Kenya. That is what we have as a splash today. Planned Friday review meeting, not on board calendar. Finance bill withdrawal to impact future disbursements. And it's a story that continues on page 2 of the People of the Business Daily today. NSE bond turnover surges to 777 billion shillings. The value of bonds traded in the secondary market at the Nairobi Securities Exchange in the 6 months to June more than doubled to 777 billion shillings, surpassing the full-year total for 2023 as investors cashed in on demand for high-pay infrastructure bonds. You have a story on page 14 of the Business Daily. Value of used clothes imports jumps to 28 billion shillings. Kenyan traders spent nearly 28 billion shillings to ship in second-hand clothes in the year ended March, signaling rising demand for used garments. That story, you can follow it on page 4 of the Business Daily. TPS to build 3 billion shillings meeting facility in Nairobi. And Safaricom chief executive derails 107 million shillings stake. That is on page 7 of the Business Daily. KQ eyes Slovenia with new Air France deal. On page 14 of the Business Daily is where it is well fleshed out for you. We cross over to Uganda, where education that pays is a splash on the front page of the Daily Monitor. Right footing. With the old secondary school curriculum long derided as delivering theoretical knowledge and unemployable graduates, the government may finally be on the right track with a teaching method that empowers O-level students to cash in on their skills. Some are already making money from skills gained over the past years, and this is a story that you want to follow on page 8 and 9 of the Daily Monitor today. Anniversary, church asks parents to guide children on social media use, and you can see Christians in a procession to deliver assorted items at the Uganda Catholic Martyrs Shrine in Namugongo, Wakiso District yesterday. This was during prayers to commemorate 50 years of Uganda Catholic Charismatic Renewal. You have a story on page 4 of the publication today. Looking at the teaser on top, the curious case of missing Karimo Jong street children. That story is on page 26 and 27. Panorama, that is where you can follow it. We cross over to Tanzania, where land dispute dominates complaints to legal aid team. Land dispute in various forms are at the center of 4 in every 10 matters reported to the Mama Samia Legal Aid campaign since the initiative was launched in April 2023. That story continues on page 2 of the Citizen today. BOT, that is Bank of Tanzania, warns microfinance institutions on interest rates. On page 2, you can follow it. Reason Morogoro is seeking city status. That is on page 3 of the publication this morning. And Tanzania-born American clamors for dual citizenship. On page 5 of the Citizen is where you can follow the story as well. Let's see what is happening in Rwanda. RPF, even as they're taking up to the elections on the 15th of this month, RPF pledges to set up glass factory for construction and bottles. It targets an annual industry sector growth of at least 13% from 2024 to 2029. And this is on page 3 of the publication. Stay brave even as you grow up, Kigame tells youth. And you can see him here, the RPF Inkontanye flag bearer, Paul Kagame, addressing over 300,000 residents in Nyagatare district, where the RPA began the journey to liberate Rwanda on Sunday. Stressing the responsibility of the youth, Kagame told them that the future belongs to them, challenging them to stay lions and never turn into cowards. Lions, he said, remain lions even when they grow old. That is a story that you can follow inside the publication today. Rwanda keen to learn from Jordan's faith-based heritage tourism, and Rwanda seeks also to reduce potent greenhouse gases from livestock. That is a story you can follow on page 4 of the publication today. The East Africa this week, winners and losers in Uganda's new oil deal. UNOC received its first fuel cargo, marking a new era of energy independence, cutting off cartels, but prices are unlikely to change. That story is on page 4 and 5 of the publication today. And also, you have a standalone picture, and the story continues there on page inside the publication today. I'll tell you momentarily. Subdued Ruto crafts painful austerity plan, and it says after facing off with angry taxpayers for weeks, the Kenyan leader on June the 5th announced measures to reduce public expenditure, including scrapping 47 state agencies and holding off hiring of assistants, ministers, and reducing government legacies. You have a story inside the publication today. Somalia pays $7.8 million for EAC budget support. The new kid on the block beats DR Congo, who have not paid a cent in 2 years. And Rwanda-UK asylum deal dead in water. That is what the new PM says. That is Tama is vowing to scrap Sunak's plan to send migrants to Kigali. This is a story you can follow on page 6 of the publication this morning. And let's see what we have also on top there. Magazine Label Records are suing tech firms over copying of classic songs. That is another story. China Daily is up next. Xi's Central Asia visit further enhances trust. Trip filled with heartfelt receptions, fruitful diplomatic engagements, overarching visions. That is a story you can follow inside the China Daily this morning. And SCO Astana Summit brings up new opportunities for Sino-Uzbek cooperation, also in the China Daily. If you've not grabbed a copy of The Economist, no way to run a country. That is what is on the front page of the latest publication of The Economist. And it's all about the presidency and elections that are upcoming in November in the US, and also imagining a war in Lebanon, a time report for SCOTUS, and in its prime, Amazon at 30, and Technology Quarterly is all about spycraft as well. That is The Economist, the latest. The Newsweek as well, money worries are destroying Americans' mental health. Burnout as well is what is headlining the Newsweek. And the week is all about the match point. Starmer prepares for victory. He's already gunned it, or he's already garnered it. That is the story you want to follow inside the publication of the latest of the week. And looking at editorial cartoons, lastly, we have the government, which is tightening the belt right now with austerity measures, as it has been pressed by the Gen Z, as you can see it here. And also we have the tangled tongue of the president on many issues, as you can see it here, as depicted by Ozone inside the Star this morning. Office of the Second Lady, that is bound to come down by order Gen Z, as you can see it, by order Gen Z. Office of the First Lady and Office of the Lady of the Prime Cabinet Secretary as well. That is going down as far as the latest protest is concerned. And Zaka finally climbed down from the tree to join the Gen Zs on Express, as you can see it here, depicted by Victor. Those are some of the editorial cartoons that we have this morning. Allow me to, of course, just give introductory remarks to our panelists who are joining us this morning. I'm joined by Dr. Makali Mulu, who is the Member of Parliament, Kitui Central. Also, we're joined by the Senator of Bomet, also the Chair of JLAC at the Senate. This is Hilary Sigay. We'll be also joined by Geoffrey Ruku, who is Member of Parliament for Mbeere North momentarily as well, right? I'd only seen that he was to catch his flight, so that was also bound to be confirmed. If not, then we'll continue best with the two panelists that are here. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Makali. Thank you.
Hi, morning. Goodbye.
Yes, a lot has been happening the last week.
Yes.
But maybe we can just hear from you. If you've been in Makueni, you can tell us an update. Also, we can hear from Bomet as well, how people of Bomet are faring. All right, good morning.
Yeah, it's a good morning, but a cold one, as you can see.
The weather, yeah, it's July.
Yesterday and today is cold. And what is very surprising is also raining. You know, normally July would just be cold, but no rains.
So the short rains begins in October.
I don't know whether the short rains are starting or what, but all said and done, the week, as you saw, it was what I call mixed reactions. some positives, but also negatives. It wasn't very interesting to watch the burial of most of our Gen Z who were getting buried this week, the immediate last week. I remember watching about 3 of the sessions, and you could see the emotions were very high, and the parents of the ones who passed on were not very happy with what had happened. They were demanding accountability in terms of what killed our kids and why are they to die. There was also the political, the statement by the president where he addressed the nation and made some comments in terms of what needs to be done to reduce expenditure. A couple of proposals in terms of what he intends to do to manage the deficit or the financing gap, which came as a result of withdrawal of the finance bill 2024. Then yesterday, the Sabasaba rallies, which was also, yesterday we saw the Gen Z back in town. And Dubai will be surprised. I think these guys have a way of doing things. Yesterday they were in Hur Park, thousands of them, and as usual, no violence. You could see armed with their mobile phones, water bottles, and possibly some with masks. They conducted themselves in a way that at the end of the day they went home and nobody was hurt, no stone was thrown, no shop was broken into. Which means, what we have been seeing last week, the Tuesday of last week, was actually other people who came to be part of, who pretended to be Gen Z. And you saw that they withdrew their participation. That day they decided we are not going to the streets, and that day was very peaceful as a result of them withdrawing. Now, when they came to the streets alone, without anybody else interfering with their regiment, they were very peaceful. And this is what we are saying about, from what I'm looking at, I'm saying, I think we really, this group of Kenyans, our children, our way of organizing themselves, our way of conducting their business, and it might be our responsibility as parents to start to appreciate how they are doing their things and see how we can relate with them from their side, not from our side. You would imagine the way we have been doing things originally, where when you have a demonstration, you go throwing tear gas, police are there. I think now that is it's outdated. We need to think of a new way of engaging these young people so that we understand them. I think this idea of talking to them and trying to understand them is very critical if we have to move forward as a country. Because from what I'm seeing is, if we use the traditional approach to sorting out demonstrations, then obvious, we'll never get it right. It means we have to think beyond what we have been doing so that we are on the same page in terms of moving the country forward. But the last week, something which I've been thinking through for the last one day is I see an opportunity for this country now to rethink as a country on where we want to take Kenya. It's like rebooting a computer. You see, when you want you have a new slate and you want to start things afresh. So I see an opportunity where, without thinking whether you're in the opposition or in the government,
it's a time to reset.
It's time to reset and say,
indeed,
what Kenya do we want?
Thank you.
And on the basis of that, then set the foundation of that Kenya and move forward.
Indeed. Thank you. Let's hear from Hilary Sigei. He's been missing in action for a while right now. Last time also he was running a flu. Hope it's broken now. You caught your voice.
I'm almost
He's
out
back.
Of the woods. I'm almost out of the
You're
debate. I'm happy to be back, of course, in this round table. One of those places where we share, and I would say I'm happy that gender, intentionally using the term gender, it's been a sober engagement on this round table, particularly because of the...
Let me just about it because I think I have an issue with your mic a bit. All right, it's giving me, or it's actually having some issues. So we'll sort it out momentarily so that you can continue also to tell us what has been happening. But good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, let's just run you back some of the stories and how it happened yesterday, if you missed it, where emotions ran high at Uhuru Park in Nairobi during an event dubbed Shuja's Memorial Concert, held in honor of the victims who died during the anti-government protests. Carrying Kenyan flags, the youth turned up in large numbers for an event that began with the mounting of crosses bearing the names of those who died during the process and those still missing. Jeff Kiroi, start us off.
Sunday, Kenyans, generally the youth, gathered at Uhuru Park for a concert to honor the lives lost during the recent anti-tax demonstrations that swept across parts of the country over the last 3 weeks. The crosses at the park entrance served as a poignant reminder that the often cited numbers represent real people with families. This was dedicated to their memory. The free concert was held in honor of what lobby groups are calling fallen heroes. Everyone who performed or contributed did so voluntarily.
We conduct a peaceful concert na tumesema ya kwamba we respect the guys who gave their lives for this freedom. We don't take it for granted. To respect hao ndo shujaa wetu wa kizazi kipya. Mimi silipwi, mimi najitolea, I'm giving of my talent. Every Kenyan needs to give of themselves, whatever they can.
It's such a painful thing to endure, and now all these guys that we've lost and we're burying will become new martyrs who will continue honoring moving forward.
Amnesty International Kenya boss Irungu Houghton condemned the actions of the police and questioned why President William Ruto had to wait for fatalities before addressing the issues raised by the protesters.
41 human beings now respected in the graves, in the tombstones that have been put up here. The youngest was a 12-year-old boy called Odhiambo. The first of all was Rex Masai. And, at least 41 lives, possibly a bit more than that. We are still verifying with the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights. So many injuries. And most importantly and most worryingly, the trend of abductions has returned to Kenya.
Edith Wanjiku, who lost her 19-year-old son Ibrahim Kamau, found reassurance in the crowd today that her son's death was not in vain.
Nilipoteza Ibrahim siku ya Jumanne, siku ya Tuesday akiwa ameenda maandamano. Sikutarajia kama hata arudi nyumbani. Sasa vile nenda Mbagathi nikamkosa, nikaamua kwenda City. Huko City ndo kwenye nilimpata.
Busia Senator Okiya Omtata was the only politician who joined other Kenyans at Uhuru Park. His message to the young people was to stand firm and not back down.
We cannot continue being governed by a government of thieves, by thieves for thieves. A Ruto government is an administration of thugs. It must go. It cannot sell our sovereignty back to the European. The white man colonized us. The white man enslaved us. The white man killed us. And we cannot allow the white man to come back through the World Bank and IMF to take over this country.
Pole kwenye walipoteza wapendwa wao na Mungu akuwe na wao katika safari ya mwisho.
Today was not just a concert, but a demonstration of solidarity and unity among the youth, reinforcing the message that it is their time.
The religious leaders are in solidarity with the youth. Their stand was made clear when they hosted the young generation for a memorial service in honor of the peers who were killed during the anti-government protests. The All Saints Cathedral hosted an interdenominational memorial service honoring the 51 young lives lost during the anti-finance bill protest with the religious leaders during that particular procession. Also, the government, they wanted the government to address the concerns raised by Gen Z, and Anne Musungu has more.
They called the names of all those who lost their lives during the ongoing anti-finance bill protest.
Brian Lemayan Kasaine, Austin Makoka, Makoha, Mike Kihuga, Kelvin Madanga Kagoni, Chris Gitonga, Rex Masai, Matthew Njoroge, Kelvin Andrew Mamwasi, Bisley Kamau Kogi.
The family of Carlton Maina strongly condemned the excessive use of force by police officers during the protest.
Easy, so hard, very hard kabisa juu he was a brother and he inspired love and peace to everywhere bana. Imagine hata maguys wenye tuko nao home, my boys walikuwa kiangalia tu hivi, yani wananiuliza like, manze bro, what's this? Boys alikuwa tu hapa hivi na sisi saizi hayuko, but iko tu sawa, yote ni ya Mungu. Wanasema maji yakimwagika haiwezi zoleka, but we should prepare a way that this does not happen to another ama tuseme tu someone's parent ama someone's kid. Nacheki.
The Anglican Church has now asked the government to release all the Gen Z protesters arrested for allegedly causing violence during the demonstrations.
The killing and the maiming of Kenyans by the security agencies should be condemned and should not be witnessed again in a democratic country. We urge the security teams to arrest and arraign in court any of those that may be culpable of committing crimes against Kenyans. We want to urge Parliament particularly that they represent Kenyans, and their representation of Kenyans must be felt by them when they leave their homes and their constituencies to come to Nairobi to legislate, whether it is in Nairobi or in the county governments, that they should be mindful of the plight of the citizens that they represent.
Joining the Gen Z's movement, leaders of the Council of Churches and CCK have called on the government to dissolve the cabinet and immediately appoint independent electoral and boundaries commissioners.
Kenyans are saying he has an incompetent cabinet. And in addition, many members of his cabinet are also corrupt. And Kenyans are saying it is time for him to dissolve the cabinet, not to reshuffle, but to dissolve. We ask the president to withdraw the Kenya Defense Forces from the streets of Kenya. Kenyans are not the enemy of the state. Kenyans are the ones who put this government into place in 2022. Let us keep and support the police to manage our policing matters. We cannot police civilians with the military. Time has come for us to withdraw the military from our streets.
The Anglican Church has pledged to continue supporting the young people in their quest for justice. And Musungu KTN News, Nairobi.
And it was the same script at the Holy Family Basilica here in Nairobi as youth gathered for a service to remember their fallen comrades. During the service, the youth highlighted key areas they want the government to align, including the reconstitution of IBC. Our reporter, Vera Mura, attended the service and she has this report.
At 1 p.m., the young people arrived at Holy Family Basilica, Nairobi, honoring their invite to celebrate a mass in remembrance of their loved ones who died during the recent anti-government and anti-finance protests. Dressed in the Kenyan flag colors, the green, red, black and white, to symbolize their fight for a better nation. Each one of them received a rosary and a rose flower before the service.
The reason we are giving out rosaries, we're also giving flags and also roses, is to symbolize our love and passion for the young people who have been part of the ongoing demos saying the government needs to listen to them, the government needs to listen to the voice of the young people, the government needs to not be there up there, but come down to the young people who have various issues. The roses basically represent the lives of the young people who have been lost across the few days during the demos. And also we want to pray for them using our rosaries.
One by one, they took a moment to write messages on white placards outside the church. It was evident that they shifted from the finance bill agenda as the new hashtag Ruto must go was dominant. Messages of hope to their fallen comrades and the names of those affected by the Occupy Parliament and Occupy State House demos.
Are you disappointed with us? Why? Because we have done. We would like we would like to renew our commitment. We would like to renew our commitment.
The mass, led by Auxiliary Archbishop Simon Kamomoe and attended by Archbishop Philip Anyolo, was attended by about 2,000 youths with 100 standing. It was clear this was a youth affair. From the choir leading the service and the liturgical dancers participating. Bishop Simon Kamomoe led the mass, and the Gen Z's attendees prayed for the 51 who lost their lives, the over 300 people nursing injuries, and the peace of the nation and its leadership. At the end of the mass, the youth lifted placards with the names of constituencies where members of parliament voted for the controversial Finance Bill 2024. For about 5 minutes, the youth chanted as they lifted the placards and roses they had received earlier. Later, a press statement issued by the youth leader of the Nairobi Diocese elaborated on the demands the youth wanted addressed, including the controversial SHIF, the fertilizer scandal, job opportunities, with the youth demanding for accountability in government.
Edible oil scandal, fake fertilizer scandal, visa conspiracy, Beyaunga protests, rebellion land debate. Government is a shareholding company. Wasn't issue scholarship scam. Control of budget report 2023. The youth of this country are demanding that the systems work for us. They are demanding for accountability. They are demanding for a better today. This country are demanding for servant leadership. They are demanding for less talk and more action. So hizo stories za tutatenga, tutahakikisha,
This summed up the Sunday event for the youths of the Catholic affiliation. Vera Mora, KTN News, Nairobi.
And in Mombasa, the Sabasaba Day was commemorated in style at Uhuru Gardens by the youth who lit candles in remembrance of the protesters who died during the countrywide protest against the government last week. Tobias Janji was there.
They started assembling from noon, and deterred by the light drizzle, they were determined to join other Kenyans in commemorating those who died in the protests. According to the youths, 5 victims died under different circumstances during the anti-government protests, which erupted after the passage of the controversial finance bill that President William Ruto eventually withdrew due to pressure from the youth.
Okay, the Gen Z and the millennials, we are bitter. We are bitter. We are very sad about the country. A lot has been happening when we were growing up.
Among those remembered were 3 victims who died from bullet wounds. One was stabbed to death, and Emmanuel Tata was choked to death by tear gas fired by the police at the protesters.
A country that does not respect and celebrate their heroes is a country that has lost direction. So for us, we are here to say we do not want to lose direction. We want to remain focused on the prize, and the prize is our democracy.
The youths first gathered at Uhuru Garden on Moi Avenue, where they held prayers and lit candles. While the youth prayed, armed police officers stood guard outside the Uhuru Garden, with others patrolling the town to monitor their movement.
Mwamko mpya kwa vijana, wanajua haki zao, wanajua wanataka nini. Sasa tuendelee kuwashika mkono na tuende nao kwa pamoja. Wale wameumia tumeona tutawasaidia pia wapone. Wale wamekufa tunasema nyinyi ni mashujaa, hamkukufa in vain.
We, as we go on the street, we only have our national flag, we only have water, we only have vuvuzela, and we only have our voice on the street. Yet you are coming and also deploying the KDF to the young people, civilians who are armless.
The commemorations were led by civil rights groups and youth leaders who vowed to continue advocating against bad governance in the country. Tobias Chanji, KTN News, Mombasa County.
Now, Azimio la Umoja coalition leaders insist that President William Ruto must resign amid the unrest currently being witnessed throughout the country. Speaking in Meru, the leaders led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka emphasized the need to hold the government accountable and praised the youth for standing up for their rights. Grace Ngang has more.
Azimio la Umoja leaders have commended the youth for standing up against the oppressive Finance Bill 2024, urging them to persist in their fight for the country. Speaking in Meru, the opposition leaders, led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, joined Gen Z to commemorate and honor the 41 youths who died as a result of police brutality, including those who perished last year during the anti-Finance Bill 2023 demonstrations. The leaders are now demanding for the resignation of President William Ruto, expressing their solidarity with the young Kenyan protesters.
Today we hear these young heroes saying Ruto must go, and Ruto will go. We have no doubt about that. It's a matter of time. He's trying to panel beat his government, to put some very cosmetic changes, to form task forces. We must thank the Law Society of Kenya for rejecting to be lured into a system of cleansing an already failed regime.
Kalonzo further criticized the government for refusing to address the high cost of living, stating that leaders allied to the Kenya Kwanza coalition declined to discuss it during the NADCO talks, calling for the immediate reconstitution of the IEBC.
The country right now is at a crossroads. This is not a thing that we think should be delayed for even one extra day.
And Parliament stands impeached. The only way to cleanse this Parliament is to ensure that we have an IEBC in place, and that's why I agree with His Excellency that Ruto should sign the assent to the IEBC bill so that we reconstitute IEBC.
The Wiper leader further lauded the Senate for supporting the need for austerity measures as demanded by the Gen Zs, adding that the government is plagued by corrupt officials who continue to loot public resources.
But the Senate has stood firm and asked for once for accountability in support of the agenda by Gen Z.
They want an accountable government, not a government that leaves lunch when the citizens are suffering.
Senators this week called out their colleagues in the National Assembly for their opulence lifestyle.
Senate, you see Prados, but in the parking of the National Assembly, you see high-end vehicles that sometimes you only see. And why, Mr. Speaker? Because of an unconstitutional fund called CDF.
Marked as a historical day for Kenya, Sabasaba is commemorated yearly to relinquish memories of July 7th, 1990, when national protests took place in Kenya to demand for multi-party democracy. Grace Nganga, KTN News, Nairobi.
Still, Azimio leaders have dismissed claims by their Kenya Kwanza counterparts that the failure of the Finance Bill 2024 will affect service delivery in the country. Vihiga Senator Godfrey Osotsi described these claims as fear-mongering, saying that the Finance Act 2023 is still in effect, ensuring continuity. The leaders also urged President William Ruto to officially gazette his decision to eliminate budgetary allocations to the offices of the First Lady and the spouses of the Deputy President and Prime Cabinet Secretary. Alan Ochanda has more.
For the first time, a finance bill has been rejected in its entirety, not on the floor of the National Assembly or due to the head of state failing to sign it, but because of pressure from Gen Z. According to the bill's proponents, its rejection will significantly impact crucial services for Kenyans. The opposition, however, argues that these claims are fear-mongering.
Village elders, wazee wa mitaa, tulikuwa tumewatengea hapo pesa ya mshahara yao ya kwanza tangu dunia hii iumbwe. Yani shilingi 15,000 kila mwezi ya kutunua airtime. Sasa kwa sababu finance bill haiko, hiyo pesa sasa hakuna. Mshahara kwa wazee wa mitaa imeenda.
Those MPs should stop the propaganda that the withdrawal of the finance bill will affect funding of key projects. The country does not need those propagandas because finance bill, as we are aware, only contains taxation policy and revenue-raising measures. It does not contain budgetary allocation.
Before meeting with Gen Z on the X platform, President William Ruto, in what was seen as yielding to their demands, announced the immediate removal of budgetary allocations of the offices of the First Lady and the spouses of the Deputy President and Prime Cabinet Secretary. While his allies praised him for this step, Vihiga Senator Godfrey Osotsi dismissed it as a gimmick to hoodwink Kenyans.
Some of the Gen Zs are working in those offices that you are trying to talk about, in the First Lady's office, in the Second Lady's office, in the Third Lady's office. They are there working. So they'll also lose jobs. So this is just, there is gaining and losing. Because now the young people, let me call them the Gen Zs that are working in those offices, will definitely be unemployed.
Na rais wetu akawa ni mwema na mwepesi wa kuelewa na akasema withdraw hiyo finance bill. Na vile vile president wetu ameondoa budget ambayo alikuwa amewekewa ofisi ya mke wake, ameondoa budget aliyekuwa amewekea ofisi ya mke wa Prime Cabinet Secretary, na ameondoa budget ambayo ilikuwa imewekewa mke wa Deputy President wetu.
Failure to cause a gazette notice to effect such a pronouncement by the president means that the said offices will continue to get funding from the National Treasury in an orthodox manner. They will lie to us that those offices are not funded, but we know what happens in government. They will be funded through proceeds of corruption within government.
Initially, the pressure from Gen Z was thought to be solely directed at the Finance Bill 2024, but they have since included other issues they want addressed, such as combating corruption, tackling unemployment, and reducing high taxes.
I want to appreciate the Gen Zs, what they did. They have raised several issues, amongst them even what we have been raising about corruption. Corruption is what is spoiling one of the diseases, I normally call it cancer, that is disturbing this country.
I want to appreciate Rais kwa sababu amesikiza vijana wetu. Mimi, I want to declare today ya kwamba I am supporting the revolution of Gen Zs in this country. Your voice has been heard loud and clear, and that is why Rais amesema mambo ya CAS ametupilia mbali. He's going to reorganize government kwa sababu Gen Zs wameongea.
After a 4-hour engagement with the youth, the president pledged to make further changes. Alan Ochanda, KTN News.
It's taking up now to 7 o'clock. We take a short break right now, but this is also what we'll be looking at. There is this press statement that was given by the Law Society of Kenya on the Presidential Task Force on Forensic Audit of Public Debt, where It says it has taken note of the Gazette Notice number 8261 of 2024, forming a presidential task force on forensic audit of public debt. The said task force is required to audit the public debt within 90 days and report back to the president under Section 4 of the Law Society of Kenya Act. The LSK is mandated to protect and assist the public and advise the government in all matters touching, ancillary or incidental to the law, as well as uphold the Constitution and advance the rule of law and the administration of justice. Further, Article 229, that is, of the Constitution of Kenya 2020 establishes the Office of the Auditor General, whose mandate includes, among others, auditing public debt. Article 229, subsection 4 specifically requires the Auditor General to audit the public debt within 6 months after the end of each financial year. Additionally, Article 226 provides that the accounts of all government and state organs must be audited by the Auditor General. And it continues there apace, of course, as you can see, the way it's been itemized. And we want to interrogate this particular issue as well. And also, the Conflict of Interest Bill 2023 that also has sparked a lot of reaction regarding how the Senate has mutilated this particular bill for their own interest. That now, if you want to, of course, trade with government, there will be no barrier, which really is usurping the interest or the desired realization of this particular Conflict of Interest Bill 2023. Also, we have a handset of some of course, how this was done in the National Assembly, right? Some of them who were for this particular bill to be mutilated in some areas. We'll clarify. And we have the chair also of JLAC here in the Senate, Hilary Sigei, to shed some light on this as well. We take a short break. You're watching Standpoint here at Morning Prime. When we circle back, we continue more with more